Welcome back to another action-packed episode of the Deadly Podcast of Kung Fu, brought to you by the Builds Man, where myself, Justin Raymer, traverses the world of Marvel's most prolific martial artist and Iron Fist, Shang-Chi and the White Tiger. If you want to keep up with the podcast, you can do so over on social media platforms such as Twitter, X, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky. If you want to keep up with myself, Justin Raymer, please do so over on Twitter, X, and Instagram, and Blue Sky if you want to take it that far. If you want to keep up with my TTRPG podcast that me and my friends play Dungeons & Dragons and such games of Star Wars on, please head over to the last half on the left and subscribe. You can follow the podcast wherever you follow Daily Kung Fu Pod on your social media outlets. On the current episode, the team comprised of Dr. Doom, Kid Goku, and Ichigo Kurosaki arrived on the DC Universe in search of the Flash, Doctor Who, and Q from Star Trek. Finding that the Green Lanterns have imprisoned the world so no one can escape, they meet Mr. Terrific, Etrigan the Demon, and Green Lantern Guy Gardner, who have a plan to break the control of the Green Lantern rings from whoever is possessing all of the corpse. So if you love TTRPG, tabletop gaming, if you love dick and fart jokes, if you like listening to people tell a good story, please subscribe and listen. Now, I mentioned this on the last episode, and I've posted it on social media. I have gotten concept art for the main characters of my comic book, The California Cannibal, and I also have panel layouts for said characters. You might hear my cat munching on some Christmas paper as I'm wrapping Christmas presents today also. So I'm pretty excited. This means a lot to me to do this myself now that I have some money to do so. I've had two independent publishers who have wanted to do the book, but negotiations did fall apart, or people just dropped the book, particularly an artist. So I'm pretty excited to get this started. And hopefully it is funded and supported on Kickstarter with your help. I know I'm going to eat money on doing this book. I understand that. Because, art is expensive. But I'm doing this for myself to prove that, hey, I can write a good story. That hopefully you, the reader, will enjoy it. And that I can do this hopefully for a living one day, which seems to be incredibly hard to do based on what you hear from writers and artists in the industry. But hey, I would love to just write comics, particularly the characters that we're talking about here on the podcast. But enough with that. We've got the big titan that we're all waiting for in comic books. The Undead Iron Fist has arrived today here on October 26, 2025. I am recording it this day. I've read it this morning. I've got this review I wrote down, and I will release it today instead of Saturday. Why? Because tomorrow is Thanksgiving Day, so happy Turkey Day if you celebrate Thanksgiving wherever you're listening from. I am very thankful to everyone who follows and listens to the podcast. You do give me reason to continue to do this, because it does get frustrating from time to time, and sometimes it does feel like a chore to do. Unless you're reading an exciting book. But as I did say on the last episode, depending on how this comic book goes, the podcast might take a dip, and I will just try to cover newer issues or an issue here and there as time will allow, depending on how busy I get with the book itself and piecing it together so I can put it on Kickstarter. Well, let's go ahead and dive into the world of Iron Fist. We did get an announcement for the Deadly Hands of Kunlun, which is scheduled to release on February 18th, 2026, which kind of spoils the ending for this book, though we don't know how it ends, and I've kind of gathered an idea how this might end based on here on issue 3. Danny Rand is still alive, and I kind of hate that. I wish Marvel would have waited till after issue 4 to announce this. But given solicitations and, how quickly that they need to get that order number for printing and whatnot, I get it. But, you could have given us a cover with just Lynn and Pei instead of Danny. But we are all excited. We're getting in, the Iron Fist family together for a book. Surely this is going to wrap up Lin Lee's story that we got in his volume of Iron Fist and the one shot during Axe Judgment Day. Because, that has to get wrapped up at some point. And it's the Deadly Hands of Kunlun. Maybe that's what I just need to turn the podcast into and just drop the Shang-Chi and just become the Deadly Podcast of Kunlun instead of the Deadly Podcast of Kung Fu. And I say this because it always seems, and every now and then I'll just look at numbers for episodes, and the Shang-Chi episodes are always lower in listenership than the Iron Fist episodes. I would cover more of Iron Fist's continuity this way, but I also enjoy that Doug Minch Bronze Age goodness when it comes to Shang-Chi, and I know some other people do. So it is a thought that I had, because originally I was just going to do an Iron Fist podcast until I milled it about doing Shang-Chi, the trailer for Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings. I was like, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and add that, because I had plans on reading the Deadly Hands of Kung Fu series. Anyway, so, why not? And here we are today. Now, before we get started, pause this episode, if you want. Please go back to, I guess a month ago at this point, and listen to the Book of Iron Fist episode covering Quan Yaozu, so you can familiarize yourself with the villain, which I was kind of upset about, of this book. Oh, well, he definitely seems like the villain for sure. I don't think there's any doubt about it. But yeah, go back. For one, you can listen to episode 1 or 2 if you haven't and you're new to the podcast. And make sure you listen to the Quan Yaozu episode, so you learn about the villain and what has taken place with the character before 3, which we're covering today, and issue 4 comes out, so you understand the villain entirely. Now, Undead Iron Fist was released today, November 26, 2025, along with 13 other titles from Marvel Comics that are Battle World Volume 1, Number 3. I need to look into that, because I know there was a Danny Rand in that. I have already had some alternate versions of Shang-Chi, White Tiger, and Danny put aside for when we get, the Secret Wars movie to come out. This is also a book I might cover as well, just because, to kind of break up the monotony of continuity, and to give you something that might be a little different, a little bit more entertaining. So this is going to go on the list, because I know there is a version of Danny that was seen on one of the covers. But anyways, Black Cat, Volume 3, Number 4, Cloak and Dagger, Volume 1, Number 2, Daredevil and Punisher, The Devil's Trigger, Volume 1. I've heard some good things about that already today, so as I've been up this morning, so I might go ahead and read that, just give it a read. Expatriate X-Men, Volume 1, Number 2, Infernal Hulk, Volume 1, Number 1. Man, if you do not read Kennedy's Incredible Hulk run, oh my god, it is so good. The horror that takes place in that book, I love that the Hulk has become this horror character. It is so good, and I cannot wait to read the first issue of Infernal Hulk number 1. Please, it is the best book on shelves for Marvel Comics. Love it. It is so good. Marvel Knights Punisher Volume 2. Marvel Zombies Red Band Volume 1, Number 3. Mortal Thor Volume 7, Number 4. And even though it says Thor Volume 7, it's called Mortal Thor. So, good stuff. Probably the second best book. Arguably, maybe the first. I'm just going to say. But on Marvel shelves. Uncle Scrooge, Earth's Mightiest Duck, Volume 1, Number 4. Undead Deadpool, Volume 2, Number 1, not to be confused with Undead Iron Fist. Venom, Black, White, and Blood, Volume 1, Number 4. And wrapping up the list is X-Vengers, Volume 1, Number 2, featuring Shang-Chi, hence why I've taken on the little nickname of the Deadly Podcast of Jason Lowe, because he is currently writing the books featuring Shang-Chi and Iron Fist, which encompass this podcast. The title of this book is called Brawl in Central Park, and your creative team, as I just mentioned, is Jason Lowe as your writer, Galan as your writers and inkers, Galactus himself. Your colorist goes to Jim Campbell, letters go to Travis Layham, and your editor is Danny Kazum. We have one variant for this issue. We've had 2 or 3 variants for issues 2 and 1. One variant for this book, which is done by the legendary Kevin Eastman from Ninja Turtles fame. So, yes, I will be picking this up because, for one, it is Iron Fist, and 2, it is Kevin Eastman. And I do love me some Ninja Turtles. I love what IDW's been doing with the series for like the last 15 years. So let's go ahead and break off into the story. It's pretty short, pretty sweet. The Undead Iron Fist races down 7th Avenue, dispelling the wraithlins from their human host as he makes his way towards Rand Corporation. There, Quan Yazoo, the first Iron Fist, sends his possessed immortal weapons to stop the hero. Fat Cobra encounters Danny Rand first in Central Park. As the two trade and counter attacks, Iron Fist recalls how he returned to the world of the living through Osiris, the Egyptian god of the dead. Training Danny and giving him power, Osiris limits his time on Earth to prove his worthiness. After escaping Fat Cobra, the Bride of Nine Spiders, the Prince of Weapons, and Dog Brother corner Danny. Forcing him to use an immense portion of his power, he frees the iron weapons from their possession and knocks them unconscious. Arriving outside of Rand Corporation, he finds the police blocking the entrance. As they warn Danny to stop, a possessed Luke Cage steps out to confront his best friend. The said, short and sweet. Actually, this was the book that took me the longest to read because I was trying to really pay attention to a lot of stuff that was going on, given what was revealed in the issue. Because there's a lot of information that's dumped on us in this issue compared to issue 1 and 2, so we've gotten some answers, and we're really going to talk about that here for the notes for the story. So first, we are going with Ghost Fist for sure. It's not like anybody remembers the character from the Immortal Men from, 7 years ago from DC Comics. Cool character. I enjoyed the Immortal Men series, but yeah, I guess it doesn't matter at this point. My biggest question is, when we get this Deadly Hands of Kunlun miniseries, so if he's Ghost Fist and Lin Lee is the Iron Fist, what is Pei? Does she get a moniker, a name to a title? Is she Tiny Fist? What are we going to call her? Because I think it's only fair that she gets something Fist as a title. With her look, we could say it's Luchador Fist. I don't know, because she's wearing that awesome getup from Living Weapon on the cover. Now we're going to get to some stuff that I am very uncertain about. A lot of uncertainty. I was pretty excited about those first 2 issues. I got some stuff that makes me a little queasy. So, Quan is certainly the villain. Just by his dialogue, we understand that, and by the 1 page of dialogue we're getting from him, we learn quite a bit. So I'm going to go ahead and read this. I admired your fighting spirit, but he's a damn nuisance. Too stubborn to let go of the immortal title. I'm here waiting, no longer reformed as you once thought. Boo. The devil always prospers with his old habits. My dogs of hell siphoned from him every bit of Shao Lao's chi and bestowed it unto me. So, we know that he has the power. That's not the first time that Danny's had his power stolen. Even though that we know he's still not Iron Fist. He's still got that chi. He should be rotting in his grave. So how is he back? My enlightened immortal weapons crush him like the ant he is. But bring him to me at his last dying breath. I want him to see everything I've taken away from him. His life, his wealth, his power. There's nothing left for him to return to in this world. And then Fat Cobra says, as you wish, Lord Quan Yazoo. The biggest question is, what is the purpose for Quan stealing Danny's chi? Is he going to steal Lin's chi? Is he going to steal Pei's chi? There's a lot of questions there that need to be answered. That makes me wonder if Quan is going to move past this series into the Deadly Hands of Kunlun. And also, this reference to having his chi. Where's the original Chi Lin? Where's he at? If he stole it during the 50th anniversary issue, why is he not involved in this book yet? Is he in this tower somewhere? I would hope so, because he's a very important part to the Iron Fist lore that was established during the Immortal series. And just this whole part here just really confuses me, because in that series with the Kwai Jun fan story, which introduces the Chi Lin and Zhao Qiang, its story was it fed on the energies of Shao Lao the Undying. And then even when it killed him, it joined with his body, which returned to Kunlun just so it could feast on the egg. So this entire time, has it been stealing the chi for Quan? Is that just part of it? Is this just something that's being created as goes on? Because there's problems with that. Because for one, how would it get to the 8th city when you have to have so many of the immortal weapons to open the gate to the 8th city? How did it escape the 8th city and know of Quan? How would Quan had sent it? I mean, I'm sure there's ways out, but there's questions there. There's layers to all this. Just this one page that I want answers to, and I'm afraid we're not going to get it. My main thought this brings up is, why does he need the chi? Why does Quan need it? Because I'm kind of confused, because in Immortal, we learned that you can have the chi of Shao Lao, live for damn near a century, and someone else get the chi as well. We've learned that between Danny Rand and Orson Randall. We have learned that, right? We also know that currently that Pei has chi from Shao Lao, Lin has chi from Shao Lao. So, how did Quan lose his chi? Would, by that theory, especially just Randall having the chi for so long, for the better part of a century, and then Danny gaining it, should he lose his chi? How is that possible? I need some answers to that. I get that he is probably 2,000 years old at this point, Quan, and he was in hell. Does that, cut everything off because he's in a different dimension, which still doesn't make sense because Danny's been in a different dimension. I mean, he was in the 8th city. He was in hell. He never lost his chi. None of the immortal weapons lost their chi while they were down there, and it seemed like they were there forever. So, how did he lose his chi, and why does he need it? Now, if I'm believing what I think's happening, and maybe the Iron Fist chi is the key to open and Chi Yu's prison in Kunlun, which would tie this all back to Lin Lei's story with his brother Fong. Maybe that's what he needs it for. Not really sure. But I'm assuming that he's also wanting Lin and Pei's chi as well. Or maybe because he has possessed the other immortal weapons, as we see in this story, and he needs Danny's chi for himself so he can open the gateway to the 8th city and let all of the demons and monsters out of the 8th city to attack the world. So, like I said, there's layers here, and I need some answers. So, talking about the immortal weapons being possessed, to me, this absolutely makes no sense at all. Let's go back to the story that we were just talking about here with Kwai Jun Fawn. He, in that story, when we meet the Qilin, he possesses Danny's school, right, to attack his heart. So, but we're seeing that the immortal weapons can be possessed. Wouldn't it made more sense to possess those immortal weapons? Because we learned that these wraithlins, as we're calling them now, doesn't seem like they're as powerful as this Qilin, just by what I'm understanding. What we're leading these foolish demons too in depth to grasp onto the immortal weapons' full prowess, like kids in the driver's seat of a Lamborghini. Why didn't they just possess some of these guys in? Why didn't they just possess Luke, this Qilin, back in the Immortal Iron Fist story? If these guys are so easily possessed, even though they're powerful, immortal beings with chi. I don't understand that. I don't want to say it's to progress the story. I get Luke being possessed. We've seen Luke possessed plenty of times. But these guys being possessed like this, I don't understand it. Because if they're that weak, and these guys are so mentally strong, they have this great mental fortitude, how are they so easily possessed? I don't like that. Let's move on to something else I don't like. My biggest complaint about what we're learning about is Osiris, the underworld, who resurrects Danny Rand for this mission. And Orson Randall being there with Osiris. I do not like this. I guess we could all see it was coming. I was hoping that, Danny at this time was being used as some pawn, some puppet by maybe Khonshu or somebody posing as an Egyptian god, but nope, that's not the case. This could have been Thing 2 from the Deadly Hand series back in the Bronze Age. This could have been DU from the Living Weapon series, which was just a decade ago, which are technically the same place. And we know that this is the case because we know when you're in Kunlun and you die, this is the hell you go to. Well, Danny's not from Kunlun, is what you might say, but his mom was not from Kunlun either, and she was there. That even gets brought up in these stories dealing with the hell of Kunlun. So Danny should have went there as well. I would assume Orson Randall should have went there as well. I think this would have been better served with Tuan or another Yama King instead of trying to tie this to some Moon Knight stuff. But I guess, if you want to tie it to Moon Knight stuff and give readers a sense like Timeless 2023 is the true Marvel future, I get that, but to me that doesn't make any sense because you look at the Power Man miniseries that came out here in 2025 that's tied to that, and now Luke is a celestial running around in space. So that doesn't make any sense either. So yeah, I think this would have been better a Yama King because we know they're a Lord of the Death. It's been brought up before. And they're all about, having people atone for their sins, the spirits when they're there in hell, and being cleansed for reincarnation. Like, everything was there for that. So, I don't know whose choice this was. Like, there's Iron Fist lore built in for something like this. It should have been used. Why did we need to bring a completely different pantheon in to do that? Like, this isn't Thor. Like, that's where the Egyptian gods made their debut at. Thor deals with all the different pantheons of gods. He is a god. There was no need for this, and it just really bugs me that we're going this route when there is a perfect explanation for this going on. And especially like the first Iron Fist in history, Quan Yao Zu, the corrupted Iron Fist, is the villain behind all this. It makes more sense to be DU or Thing 2 and to have that as the underworld and not Osiris's underworld. And you might want to say, oh, well, it's the underworld. All the death gods live in the underworld. But, man, I don't remember if it was after Siege. I know it's around the time of Siege, back when I owned my comic book shop. But they went back into Journey into Mystery. Hela didn't have a hell to go to, and Mephisto let her chill in his hell, therefore separating the fact that there is hell with two L's for Mephisto to rule, and hell as in with one L that Hela rules. So we know that there's different underworlds throughout the, I don't want to say multiverse of Marvel, but in the 616. So why did we have to use the Egyptian one? Why could we not stay within the lore that's been with this character for 50 years instead of bringing in Egyptian gods, unless there's a plan somewhere to make this feasible and make sense? But still, to me, honestly, as a fan of the character, this shouldn't even happen. We should have just stuck with Thing 2, DU, and ran with that. I do like that, though. Osiris is making him prove his worthiness. We have this tapestry that's tied to his soul that every time he uses his powers, it's burned. So we have this time limit. We know that he's going to be saved because of deadly hands of Kunlun. We know that he's going to return to the land of the living, or at least to Kunlun itself, because he's already been showed to be in his Undead Iron Fist getup on the cover of issue 1. I wish we would have saved that, because here's the thing, this whole thing with Osiris just proves, without a doubt, that he's going to come back. So I cannot risk abandoning my kingdom to walk among the living once more while Yao Zu interferes with mortal businesses. And he does call him a death god in this book, by the way. I don't see how he's a death god or a pretending death god. But even when he was Ching Ming, he still wasn't. He says, but I can provide you power. If Khonshu can have a fist in the land of the mortals, maybe so can I. I will put you through a trial to prove your worthiness, which he has been doing. Your soul is now woven into this tapestry with the symbol of Shao-Lao. It will kindle as you return to your realm. Once it burns away completely, you'll be bound back to the realm of the dead, which could have been Thing 2 or DU, whichever one we want to call it. So, but that's all spoiled by Deadly Hands of Kunlun. Like I said, I get you've got solicitations to worry about, orders to make, printing, I get all that. But man, we know that he's going to be okay. And I hate that because it kind of really doesn't give you as much to look forward to in issue 4. And to me, yeah, this issue just turned continuity up on its head, in my opinion. Now, with the pace of this book, as we're looking forward to issue 4, we don't going to get any interference with the Immortal Weapons anymore, I don't think, when we move to the Quan Yaozu fight. We know that Daredevil's probably not going to show up given the pace of this book, and he's been overran by wraithlins. A question now that I think about is how are we going to defeat the possession on all these people in New York by wraithlins that are just running amok? Maybe when we beat Quan Yaozu, they're tied to him. You kill Quan Yaozu, the possession is over, frees everybody from New York. Maybe that's just a trick. The big question here is Misty and Colleen going to get involved? If they are, given the pace of what we're going to happen, we know that he's going to fight Luke. We know that he's got to fight Quan Yaozu, and then we know the story's got to wrap up. I'd imagine if Misty and Colleen are here, that they're captured. Because my question that I had when I seen Luke in his book is like, how did he get there so fast? He probably took a cab, let's be real. But in issue 1, when he finds the empty grave, Danny's already started his race towards Rancorp. He's already got a head start on Luke at that point. So Luke has to play catch up. So during this time, which this does not seem like this book is a long time at all, given the pace that it's going, like maybe an hour tops, I would assume, that this whole book takes place in. Oh man, my kids are having a blast. But that means, like, if Misty and Colleen are involved, Luke would have to call them and get them to Rancorp. Like, how would he know that Danny would go there first? I mean, I guess it makes sense. It is his building. But there's a lot for Luke to do in maybe the given time frame of this book, which could be an hour, to hurry up and get there to be possessed. So clearly he knew that's where to go. He got possessed there because we know the Immortal Weapons didn't jump him at the park. I would assume they wouldn't, because I would assume by the time Danny digs himself out of a grave, Quan Yaozu isn't aware that he's dug himself out of the grave until he starts causing all the chaos or fights the first wraithlins. So if Misty and Colleen are here, I think they're going to be captured. I don't think that there'll be any possession. I don't think they will fight each other. Or maybe Danny will just have to do something completely radical because they are possessed and he doesn't want to see them die. So I'm curious how this all is going to wrap up. And it's going to happen at the end of the year. We know the book is scheduled for December 31st, New Year's Eve. I will record that episode and get it out as my last episode for the year. So I'm not as excited as what I was, given what I've learned. Some of the lore getting turned upside down, mixed, which I get, man. It's just Marvel. It's comics. It's how it works. It still hurts my heart. But I'm curious to see what's going to happen here with Quan Yaozu. I was hoping he would be a good guy. Danny was being manipulated. That's not the case. And I'm afraid that this villain from 20 years ago that everybody wanted to return is just going to be a footnote, and we're never going to see him again. But hopefully we get an explosive ending to end the year of 2025. That'll wrap up this episode of the Deadly Podcast Kung Fu, brought to you by the Villains Man. If you like my music, check out Rushing Tiger by Kuro over on SoundCloud and YouTube. When the California Cannibal comes out and I get it on Kickstarter, hopefully that you'll help me push that out. It will be successful and I can get it to print. But most importantly, guys, support your local comic book shops and keep reading comics.